welcome to the last Gamesmaster, possibly ever, because I've received a slightly worrying fax memo from Channel 4. It says, to the most important person at Gamesmaster, we are sorry to report that the number of complaints for this series has risen to an all-time high. Dominic is still making jokes deemed too offensive and controversial for this time slot. Well, I'm quite surprised, to tell you the truth. I don't think we've ever said or done anything remotely dodgy on this show, but I'm willing to admit if I'm wrong. So, for the whole of this show, we're going to have an offense-ometer running. Anytime we say or do anything unsuitable for an early evening time slot, it's going to register on that little meter. And if it's too high by the end of the show, then we are going to catch it. Okay, so, with that considered then, with a much sadder pan, so let's... You're kidding. I can't... With me, sandwiched between two girls for the last time. I can't say that either. With an altogether bigger lump in... Oh, this is... Oh, forget. Let's just go to today's event.
There are few games which demand more skill and accuracy than the one I've chosen for this, my final event, the excellent Time Crisis. Quite simply, the aim is to shoot the enemies without being shot. The test of good players, however, is not whether they can do this, but how quickly. That's the basis of tonight's event. This one I'm looking forward to with relish.
For some top shooting people on screen, pushing down a pedal to hide and not hide type action, Mr. Tony Leung. Welcome to the show, Tony. Now, Tony, let's start with Time Crisis. How much do you play the game then on average?
I would think maybe, in terms of money, maybe £20 per week.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you go around a lot of different arcades. Do you? And what's the kind of plan? What, to leave your initials as the high score on each one?
Yeah, I try to do that whenever I see a high score and
try and beat it. How good are you then? I mean, do you get the top scores on most of the machines?
Most of them, but occasionally I run into troubles with one good player in particular.
What does he go by?
Yes, his initial is XXX, and I'm finding it quite hard to beat this record.
He's the one guy. There's only one guy you've got difficult with.
Yeah.
Well, now I mean, I suppose. I mean, if we were some kind of like really cheesy kind of show like Cilla Black, surprise, surprise, this is where we'd say, right, you know, we've spent lots and lots of money tracking him down, and you know, let's bring on Mr. Triple X. You know, I mean, that'd be quite funny, wouldn't it? Yeah. Hysterical, wouldn't it? Prepare to be hystericized then, Tony Leung, because we have found him. Here is your nemesis, Mr. X.
I appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
Triple X, tell us your real name.
Philip Groves.
Philip Groves, what do you do for a living?
Sales rep for an optical company.
So, basically, when you're driving around doing your sales repping, what do you like nothing more than doing?
Sometimes I'll spot an arcade that has Time Crisis in there, and I'll pop in and have a few games.
And you've
quite
literally littered the country with the Triple X
on
it. How do you feel, Tony? You're going to be going first under the watchful gaze of Mr. Triple X. Is that going to add a little bit of tension there?
No, it's not a problem. Yeah.
It's not? Okay, good. This could be it. This could be the time to leap ahead of Mr. Triple X.
Yeah.
Right, the guys are going to get their weapons in their hands, ready to shoot at a moment's notice. While they pucker up their gaming power, we'll go to today's news. In less than 48 hours' time, for 250 notes, you'll be able to lay your grubby hands on the most powerful games machine ever, the awesome N64. Already over 3 million have been sold in Japan and America since its release 7 months ago, and demand is quite literally outstripping supply. The three launch titles are the excellent Pilot Wings, the disappointingly clumsy Shadows of the Empire, and of course Mario 64, quite possibly the greatest video game ever. The next big release is Turok, a first-person shoot-'em-up that boasts some of the most impressive graphics ever seen. Future releases include Wave Race, Blast Corps, GoldenEye, Star Fox, International Superstar Soccer, and of course Mario Kart. Still some way off though is Zelda, which will run on an HDD peripheral. Expect all these games to have the number 64 after them. Cause for celebration then among UK game fans, but we'll leave you for now with some exclusive footage of Doom 64, slated for an April release. Okay, we have got Tony Leung against his Time Crisis nemesis, Mr. Triple X. Standing buttock to buttock with me is Derek Lynch from Namco Wonder Park. Derek, what's the kind of best general tip you give the guys?
Well, they have to go for accuracy and the ability to predict where the enemy's coming from.
Okay, and they know the game inside out, though, these guys,
They do. They're the best.
Okay, so both Tony and Mr. Triple X are going to play through the first two stages of the hard level of Time Crisis. Whoever gets it done in the quickest time will walk away with the joystick. Tony's up first. The best of luck, Tony. Off you go. Okay, we're into the first area then of the hard level, and Tony's just running behind a little block there, shooting the guys as they come down from the helicopter. There is the pedal on the game though. Whenever he takes the pressure off that, he will hide. He can also reload during that time, but it will cost him some time. It's a good start though, Derek.
That's right. He's predicting the moves there, and he's keeping calm, and he's very accurate.
Okay, if we look at the top right-hand corner of the screen, you can see the time that Tony took on the very first part of that. That's going to be continually updated throughout the challenge. At the moment, he's number one, and of course, with the Triple X still to play after that. Right, now Derek,
this is a difficult stage here. He needs speed to get as many shots in at this helicopter as possible. And if he's fast enough, he may be able to take the helicopter down, and he's done it.
And he does it. That was a remarkably quick display there with the helicopter. You see in the top right corner, he's still top 45 plus seconds so far. The bottom right hand corner, you can see the general aggregate time that's elapsed. That's it, the end of area 154.35, ranking number one. Tony goes on to area number two. This is going to be tougher now, yeah?
That's right. Watch out for these red characters. The ones in the red suit shoot very accurately. You only get one chance with them.
Okay then, he's taking these guys out remarkably swiftly there. He's being very brave, Derek. He's only hiding it when he really has to.
That's right, that's right.
Okay, up to 1 minute 12 then, still top of the ranking here in stage two. It's going to get hard on Mr. X, looking on, not looking terribly ruffled, not looking too fine to me, Derek, but Tony is doing well.
That's right, he's got to time it between this press. And, oh, he's got that red character.
That's good. The red guys, we don't have the red guys. They shoot fast there. They shoot fast.
And accurate. Fast and accurate.
Faster than us. Even. Okay, then we can see the time there last 1 minute 38 seconds so far in the bottom right corner of the screen. We must be getting quite close to the end of the stage now, Derek.
That's right.
That's it. He's done it. Quite literally very close to the end of the stage. 1 minute 43.7 for Tony Leung. That's the time Mr. Triple X has to beat. Best of luck, sir. Off you go. Okay, of course, Mr. Triple X immediately behind the bar there. We're not going to see his time until he's finished the very first part of this stage. But again, took them all out without needing one reload there, Derek.
Very clean shooting. Amazing.
Not wasting one little smidgen of a set of time. Now we can see it. We look at the top right corner of the screen. Already he's ahead of that. You can see Answer 60.4 for that first bit. Triple X 15.3 something. They are lurking in the corner there. It's an excellent start by the master.
Unbelievable. Action. Here he's got to shoot. This is very difficult here where the characters are very small. He has to shoot very accurately.
That's right, so if he makes a mistake, man, now the helicopter.
The helicopter. Now he has a very unusual technique of holding it and doing a machine connection with his finger.
That was fantastic. The helicopter down already. He did something with his fingers there. He's still ahead of that. He's still over a second ahead. He's going to have to slip up now, really, for Ant to have a chance. Where's going to be the most difficult thing? It's not going to be in this first inning. He's done there. 53.02. Over a second ahead. Derek, could he slip up in this second area?
He could do. Well, he's put away the red characters. The red characters shoot very accurately.
They're the ones that was tricky.
That's right.
Okay, then we can look at the time there. Again, he's gone down about 0.2 of a second slower there, but still over a second ahead on the split times. 1.3.7 we're looking at the end of the level. This is a tricky bit again for timing, Derek.
That's right, because you see the metal press is coming down. He has to shoot the characters in between the press, otherwise he loses time.
And use that time when the press comes down to reload?
That's right, that's what he's doing.
Okay then, if we look at the top, he is there. Oh, he's got, no, I thought he getting faster there. Still about 1.2 seconds ahead up, and there's only a couple of stages left on this. Mr. Triple X showing his form. This is the last bit here, Derek.
That's right, here again we've seen accuracy. He's hit the red man, and they're coming up from the top.
That's it, it's almost over. That's it, Mr. Triple X, 141.13, 2.5 seconds ahead of the Tony. The winner, Mr. Triple let's start with you there, Tony. Where did you really lose the time there?
It was the part where there was a conveyor belt with the boxes coming across in front of the screen. Yes, yeah.
Let's go to you. Why Triple X actually?
When I was a lot younger, there's a spoof double agent film on the telly, and they had this guy on there, and he called himself Agent Triple X, and it was just a silly way of getting my initials up, really.
Well, we have been very privileged today. Not one but two fantastic players, but one gaming legend, which is why the Gamesmaster Golden Joystick goes to Mr. Triple X. Top one there by Mr. Triple X, who's actually lent his name to a series of films you can see advertised in dodgy national tabloid newspapers. Because we're behaving tonight, none of those films will be shown in today's reviews. This week we're going to take a look at two of the most bulgingly anticipated games on the N64, beginning with Mario Kart 64.
All the other characters are back. The tracks, there are loads of them, there's 20 in all, including the 4 battle modes. It's got pickups, bonuses.
4-player mode is the feature that everyone's been looking forward to the most. You get to race around in versus mode on all of the tracks again, like in the first Mario Kart. You can carry big long lines of bananas or a string of shells around with you, then fire them off when you feel like it. Unfortunately, the coins from the first game have gone, which you used to pick up to make you go faster. The 1-player mode occasionally gets boring and annoying with computer opponents that will catch you no matter what power-ups you use or how well you drive. If we'd never seen Super Nintendo Mario Kart, we'd think this was a very good driving game. But as it is, it's just not as good as the original Super Mario Kart. It's just not as good as we'd hoped.
Whew, controversial end there. Finally, another game based on my early life as a teenager in Arbroath, Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
It's got 8 huge levels, and there are warps on each level so that you can sort of like get from one point on the level to the other point, because they are gigantic. Apart from the bow and arrow, the other weapons are like the grenade launcher, the pod rocket launcher, the particle accelerator, which you actually have to charge up for a few seconds before you can fire it off. But then, of course, there's the fusion cannon. Now, this is awesome.
You've got raptors, you've got triceratops, you've got natives, you've got hunters, you've got some underwater creatures. The special effects are some of the best we've ever seen, including the rest of the Nintendo 64 games. Some of the best graphics around. And overall, it's a really, really good game.
And you can get details on these games on our Gamesmaster webpage, unless you've got to go and have your tea. That's it for part 1 of this final show, where we are trying to behave. In the second part, I'm going to touch something wet and slippery. It's a fish, Michael Fish, on as a special guest after this break. Welcome back. I hope those various commercials slipped seductively inside your mind. Prepare to spread your attention span once more as we go into our final celebrity challenge.
For my very last challenge of this series, I've chosen a game which I hope will send us out on a high note, prop cycle. Soaring around the heaven on a bicycle, my final contestant's task involves popping balloons worth varying amounts of points. Their challenge is to amass 2,000 points before the clock runs out. I feel the time counting away on this, the last show, and I only hope my challenger will provide us with a fitting finale at this most sad moment.
And so for our final celebrity challenge of the series, we have a guest of meteorological proportions. Please welcome the bloke who puts the man in Weatherman, Mr. Michael Fish. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Now, Michael, did you always want to be a weatherman, even when you were younger?
A meteorologist, that's different. I always wanted to work with the weather in the Met Office, but more often just sort of had thoughts of doing research or something like that. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd end up on television.
We're very big on fashion. on the show. Now, you've got...
Are you?
Yeah, well, I was hoping you could give me an assessment of my outfit then.
Well, it's cheap in a way. Not cheap and nasty, but cheap because you don't have to wear ties. And I spend a fortune buying ties all the time, you see. So you get away with it.
That's because I spent so much money on the lining there. See that on there? A nice little bit of gold there.
Snap.
Well, that's kind of more of a green, though, Michael.
Oh, but I went all the way to Oslo to buy this jacket.
Okay, so I'm glad you got your money's worth. Okay, Michael, if you'd like to assume your challenge position upon the bike, I'll go up to the
Thank you very much.
position. And providing my own personal warm front is Visage Kirk Ewing. Kirk, what's your favourite kind of weather?
My favourite weather is smur, Mr. Diamond.
What's smur, Mr. Ewing?
Smur is light Scottish rain.
Is it? It's never fallen on me.
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, we're in the presence of a television presenting legend tonight, and we've also got Michael Fish as well as me. So what advice could you give him?
Well, there's a few things to remember about this game, and basically pedalling, but not to pedal too fast, right? Aim for the balloons. If you miss a balloon, don't stop and try and turn around and go back for it. Just keep going, because the balloons at the end are worth more points.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Fish has to get 2,000 points worth of burst balloons before the time runs out. Best of luck, sir. Your time starts now. Okay, so off goes Mr. Michael Furious Fish in the top left-hand corner. You can see his timer counting down on the time. That is the first 50-point balloon he's got. He's missed the second one. The points of the balloons will go up the further he gets through the course. We're looking for 2,000 points. Only 50 so far, Kirk.
Not so good, really, but I mean, he's doing the right thing. He's choosing to ignore the ones that he misses and just keep going, pushing on to the bigger points further on down the track.
Okay, he's quite literally ignoring everything. Not annoying, he might be annoying everything, but I wouldn't like to say that about him. Here's a 200-point balloon, and that's more like it takes about the 250. Misses the other one, though, nearly goes right into a house, and he misses another one. And he missed another one. I can see a consistent theme here, Kirk.
It certainly is. It's the Fish's prerogative to do so. He should have picked up that last balloon, though, because that would have given some extra time and helped him complete the challenge a bit easier.
Okay, he's got a couple more points there. He's got 32 seconds there. We're nearly halfway through the challenge, and he hasn't got to 1,000 points yet. He's on 7. Oh, it's got quite. Oh, my goodness, it's not stopping. That counter's going up and up. 1,050, 1,250. This is much better. 20 seconds left, Kurt. What do you want to see him picking up now?
I want to see him basically just trying to sort of not hurt anybody on the course. I mean, he's got to get the biggest points he can, and at the moment he's just sort of careering around like a mad flying fish.
He's only got 9 seconds left. He wants to get some kind of like balloon to extend his time, otherwise he's not going to do it. The time's ticking out. 3, 2, 13, 15. Oh no, he's got a time thing. He's got a time thing. He's back on 12:50. He's in a cabin, Kirk.
He's in a cabin. There's another time balloon here. So if he picks this one up, yep, he's got another few seconds adding on to the score. That's a good bonus for him.
It's quite literally the secret cavern of extra time.
Ooh.
Okay, 7 seconds left though. He still needs to get more time. I can't see him doing this. He's got some more time. That's another one. But he needs to get another 750 points. Put in a big, massive balloon. 1,350. We need another 650 points. He's got 4 seconds left. I don't think he's going to do it. His time's taken away. No. Time is out, Mr. Michael Fish. 1,350 points. His challenge ends in fishy failure. Commiserations there, Mr. Fish.
It's exhausting.
How did you find it?
Well, I was a bit guilty, you see, because they look to me like Met Office radio song balloons. They're balloons we send up with instruments, and they're so important and so valuable that I was pretty reluctant to shoot any down, really.
That is one of the finest excuses. We've got 1,300 points. Wasn't bad at all. It was a fine performance.
That's the first time I've ever played any of those sort of games, so, well, it's the first time for everything. Not bad.
And a fitting end to the last celebrity for this series. Please give it up to our special guest tonight, Mr. Michael Fish.
Thank you very much.
For one final time, I have clasped the hand of a legend. Now we're going to go to the final feature of this series. For one final time, I'll be sent across to far distant lands. For one final time, I will be able to flirt outrageously with attractive ladies. And for one final time, you will ponder the moral implications of the fact I get paid for all this. We had a number of options for this week's feature. We could have covered binary code programmers in Leicester, machine operators in Swindon, or glamour models in Tampa Bay, Florida. I think we made the right decision.
Here's your tea, Dominic.
Thanks, love. Yes, Gillian Bonner is quite literally a glamour model who takes a good photo. But she also happens to be one of the few women to own her own software company, as well as star in its first title, Rihanna Rouge. me, Gillian's a person who's very comfortable with her body. But as we sat chatting by the lagoon that backs onto our splendid home, I couldn't help wondering.
So, Gillian, what's a lovely lady like you doing in a horrible industry like this?
Well, I was interested in high school, and then after modeling in New York for a number of years, I retired from that and opened a mail-order hardware, computer hardware company.
Was it easy to get started off?
Well, it took money, and I rounded up the most knowledgeable people I could to help me, and of course I learned a lot by doing that, but I hated that part of the industry, so it just wasn't creative enough.
So, Rihanna Rouge, what's it all about?
Oh, well, it's about the making of a superhero. She starts out as a really downtrodden, abused secretary with no self-esteem, and through the player's choices, she eventually ends up as a superhero.
Right.
Gillian is very much the driving force of the company and is well versed in the intricacies of game production. Each section of the game was meticulously storyboarded before Gillian and her pals upped sticks to shoot the live action material in a studio in Los Angeles.
Ready, action.
These chroma key scenes were later composited into the various environments that Rihanna encounters. Her progression from timid secretary to hard-as-nail superhero is mirrored in a selection of eye-popping outfits.
Okay, so we've come into Gillian's private study here where I'm going to take a look at her pants, basically. So Gillian, show us some of the costumes then that you wore in the game.
Okay, what little costumes we have here.
Yeah.
This is was worn in Fun World, which is pretty cool.
That's nice, very Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. This was Tree World, and it was a really great world to work on.
Uh-huh.
All tribal and feathered.
There are some members of Parliament in Britain that wear stuff like that regularly. Just, yeah. They do, trust me.
I believe you. Yeah. This is the final, when she becomes a superhero, she wears this outfit. With all the spikes and chains and everything.
That's
great.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's just a pity that none of them come in my size.
Indeed, Gillian's no slouch when it comes to giving the public what it wants. No doubt when Rihanna Rouge hits the shelves later this year, Gillian Bonner will be not only beautiful and intelligent, but wealthy too. No wonder I took a few precautions to make sure my stay didn't end too soon.
Well, that's it, and Gillian's very kindly offered to give me a lift to the airport.
Looks like it won't start.
Oh, no.
Guess you'll have to stay.
Okay, that's it. The end of the show, the end of the series, and if we take a quick look at the offence-ometer, I am amazed. I mean, it appears to have swelled to erect proportions. We are quite literally in a lot of trouble. I'm hearing the Channel 4 No Fun police are on their way down, and the future looks grim. So, I'm sorry, I mean, I feel kind of quite responsible for all this. So I guess I'd just like to say, well, apologise really to all the old people who feel I've made terrible jokes at their expense, to all the parents who felt we've corrupted or tainted their children in any way. I personally would just like to say, I don't give up.